Hello and welcome to another Telecom Innovator video. My name is Phil Harvey. I'm an editor here at Light Reading, and the Telecom Innovator video series is where we talk to people and companies that are moving the global communications industry forward. Today I have a special guest that I've spoken with before from ServiceNow, Chris Bauschka. Hi Chris, how are you?
Great, Phil. Thanks for having me here.
It's great to see you again, and thanks for giving us a bit of your time. ServiceNow has had a really interesting year because it's taken such big strides into the telecom space. A lot of announcements around some of the telco partners you're working with, and we'll get to that. But I kind of want to start out by, talking about, I guess the core premise that especially companies, now in the pandemic are wrestling with, which is the speed and the shape of their digital transformation. So I guess a great place to start would be what factors are influencing digital transformations right now.
Sure, Phil. So I'm sure you see this as well as you talk to the operators, that virtually every operator is transforming in some way, as you mentioned. And my observation is that they're transforming for primarily three reasons. First of all, you may know that they're launching next generation services and networks. They're working to get back to growth. And as they launch those new services, they're often looking at, how do I deliver a different experience? How do I support that next generation service in a new way?
Mm-hmm.
I also see them transforming just from an operating cost perspective. You probably know that they're under incredible operating cost pressure. And so transformation is often a way to get that step change improvement in cost. And then I also see transformations from an experience perspective. It's often a chance to really change the game in terms of a different kind of experience. And I'll tell you, as I just look at these transformations around the world, what I'm seeing more recently is the days of the Big Bang transformation are past. Those days of hundreds of millions of dollars or euros and multi-years, I think those hopefully are in our past. And that I think the operators are being actually a lot more smarter in terms of how they're structuring their transformations and thinking them in terms of phases of one service, one customer group, one geography, and rolling them out in a much smarter way.
Yeah, I've certainly noticed that. You're right about that. There used to be this big thing where a company would just announce its restructuring, and it was, a kind of a stop down to, the company's normal state. But nowadays companies are working along, more and more quickly, even as they continue to transform. On the business side of this, though, what are some of the biggest opportunities for service providers as they're transforming their business?
Sure. So one of the most common places that I see operators starting their transformation is in this service domain. And it could be customer care, it could be service operations, it could be network operations or service assurance. And the reason for that is service is often at the intersection of what we talked about at the beginning in terms of what you need to do to support those next generation networks and services, what you need to do to improve that experience and also reduce costs. And also, just if you think about the size and the scope of most service organizations, driving efficiency or restructuring costs and service is going to have an outsized impact in terms of the CSP's bottom line.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of upside to that process, but there's also some risk involved as well. So what happens, in that process if service providers don't get the services side exactly right?
So I think you're right, Phil. So with that incredible cost pressure that the CSPs are under, I think that's right, that the instinct is often to shortchange this area. I think for all of us, it's just so easy to keep operating that status quo. It's so easy to say, it's okay. Maybe there's a few extra steps in this call type. Maybe there's a few swivel chairs I have to do in terms of different technology silos, but I'll kind of just make that work. But I think if you talk to the business leaders in the CSPs, you talk to the people that are running the P&Ls, what they'll tell you is, because of that situation you have in the status quo, there's more pressure on getting my renewals than I need to have. it's more competitive in terms of trying to win that next RFP. It's much harder for me to win that next RFP. And I'm saddled with a situation where I've got frustrated customers and I have a higher operating cost than I would otherwise. And so what we're seeing more and more is operators moving ahead with these changes, with these kind of smarter, shorter transformations. And what we're seeing as a result is operators that get actually a lower operating cost structure compared to where they were before, but also just a better experience across the board.
Yeah, that's definitely the end game, uh, and nowadays, given the price sensitivity of some telecom services, it's the it can't be said enough that that the service part of that has to be excellent to really retain customers and keep that churn from happening. One of the things that strikes me about ServiceNow is that obviously the company works across multiple industries, but it's also a global company. And since you're working with service providers all over the globe, what are some of the key ingredients to providing a good, a successful digital transformation?
Sure, Phil. As you can imagine, all the different operators, they take different approaches to their transformations. Some think about it by service or by customer type or geography, whatever it is. But I will tell you, there are definitely some key tenets in terms of what makes a successful transformation. To me, there's really three essential tenets to a successful transformation. The first is this idea of a simple and clear vision, this idea of being bold. You have to inspire your organization and motivate your organization to deliver on a compelling vision for that transformation. You also have to think about what I call a one team approach. As you deliver this transformation, you're going to bring together people across organizations, across business, across IT. You're bringing in a system integrator. You're using a technology provider such as ServiceNow. And all those different people and organizations have to come together as one team. They have to make decisions as one team. And you have to make those trade-offs in terms of what am I going to say no to as a business or IT so that I can achieve those amazing results that I've set forth in that simple and clear vision.
Right.
And then finally, just maybe one more point here is around just short phases. Don't think about this as I've got to do everything at once. Take this down into short phases where every phase has compelling business value. And if you do it that way, what you find is as you start to achieve that business value in those phases, you're going to create momentum across the organization and excitement across the organization for that vision.
Yeah, that's great advice. I mean, taking it incrementally, but also always having that vision in mind so that it doesn't seem like it's some pet project or whatever, but that everybody really buys in across the organization.
That's
Um,
right.
so we're just about out of time, but I do want to put you on the spot. It would be uncharacteristic of me not to put somebody on the spot. So now you've described, the keys to a good transformation. So give me a real world example. Give me the poster child for in the service provider space for a digital transformation, and what are they doing well, and how are they getting it right?
Sure. So as you can imagine, there's many transformations that we're involved in at ServiceNow, and there's actually quite a number around the world that are getting it right. One operator that I'll mention that we're working with very closely is BT Global. If
Okay.
you think about BT Global, a couple of years ago, they did a thorough analysis of their market, which is the largest enterprise companies in the world. And to their credit, they recognize, this market has fundamentally changed. And for us to be successful as a business going forward, we cannot keep doing what we're doing. We have to fundamentally reinvent ourselves for this new reality of where this market has gone to. What they decided to do at BT Global is to create a brand new organization, a startup, if you will. They created this organization called Digico. They brought people together across BT to form this new startup organization called Digico. And then that organization created a brand new greenfield stack to reinvent what their experience was going to look like for those large customers, as well as a new set of services that they will engage in that business as well. From a greenfield stack perspective, they use ServiceNow, as you can imagine, as the foundation for that cloud stack. They did very much take this smart transformation approach. So in just a few months, they were able to stand that up, actually launch the business, launch these new services. And I've got to tell you, Phil, just amazing results in terms of there's an incredible amount of automation from the customer all the way down into the different networks and services. And then they've also been really effective at making this direct connection into each of their different enterprise customers as a result. And
Oh, that's
finally, I don't know if you know, but we have a webinar actually that we produced that is all about this BT transformation. So we're talking to BT's Alex Bell about that transformation. So I definitely encourage people watching this interview to also catch the BT webinar.
all right. That's fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Chris. Chris Bauschko with ServiceNow. Um, please do find out more about the ServiceNow digital transformation that they're involved in with BT by looking at the webinar information in our show notes. And yeah, again, thanks again for taking the time. I do appreciate it.
You got it, Phil. Thanks so much.